Dr. Ragnar stood at the observation window of the Galactic Military Research Facility, his 4 violet eyes blinking in rapid succession as he reviewed the final safety protocols for the 100th time. The massive testing chamber below gleamed with pristine white walls and polished metal floors, soon to become the arena for their most ambitious weapons trial yet. "Doctor, the human subject's transport has entered our atmosphere," announced Lieutenant Pichtar, her translucent scales shimmering under the facility's bright lights. "Are you certain about this? The casualty waiver forms alone took 3 solar cycles to process." Ragnar's secondary arms twitched nervously as he adjusted his scientific robes. "The High Command insisted on human participation. Apparently their unique physiology makes them ideal test subjects for the new XR-750 plasma rifle series." Behind them, the research team bustled about the control center, a symphony of clicking mandibles and whirring datapads filling the air. Dr. Cax, the facility's lead weapons specialist, slithered forward on his serpentine lower body, golden eyes fixed on the latest diagnostic readings. "The plasma concentration is stable at 15,000 Kelvin, Cax reported, his forked tongue flicking anxiously. "Though I must note, this is well above the survival threshold for most carbon-based life forms." Ragnar waved a dismissive third hand. Yes, but humans are different. You've read the reports from the Earth campaigns. Their soldiers continued fighting with injuries that would have killed any sensible species." The facility's alert system chimed softly, announcing the arrival of their test subject. The massive security doors slid open with a pneumatic hiss, revealing a sight that made several junior researchers skitter backward in alarm. Lieutenant Jack Cooper strode into the control center like he owned it, all 6 feet and 2 inches of pure human confidence wrapped in standard-issue marine combat armor. His dark skin glistened with sweat from the planet's triple suns, and a crooked grin played across his face as he took in the array of alien scientists. "Hope I'm not late to the party," Jack announced, cracking his neck with an audible pop that made Dr. Cax flinch. "Traffic was hell up there. You guys really need to work on your orbital patterns." Ragnar stepped forward, attempting to match the human's casual demeanor. "Lieutenant Cooper, welcome to Facility 7. I am Dr. Ragnar, lead researcher for the XR-750 project. We're honored by your participation." Jack's eyes lit up at the mention of the plasma rifle. "So that's the bad boy I'll be testing? Sweet. When do we start cooking?" "Cooking." Dr. Cax's translator struggled with the idiom. "Lieutenant, this is not a culinary exercise. The XR-750 generates plasma hot enough to melt through battleship armor." Jack laughed, the sound echoing off the sterile walls. "Figure of speech, Doc. Just means I'm excited to get this show on the road." Lieutenant Pichtar stepped forward, datapad in hand. "Sir, we have several hours of safety briefings scheduled before—" "How about we skip to the good part?" Jack interrupted, already walking toward the testing chamber's entrance. "I read the manual on the way here. Point the shooty end at the bad guys. Try not to point it at myself. Pretty straightforward, right?" The entire research team watched in horror as their human test subject casually strolled toward what they had spent months designing as the most dangerous proving ground in the quadrant. Dr. Ragnar's upper arms clutched his datapad while his lower ones wrapped around his torso in a self-soothing gesture. "Lieutenant Cooper," he called out, voice cracking slightly, "the plasma weapons are still in the prototype phase. We haven't even established proper safety protocols for—" Jack turned, walking backward with that same infuriating grin. "Doc, trust me. I've been shot by plenty of stuff that was supposed to kill me. At this point, it's practically a hobby. Now, where's this fancy gun of yours? I've got a bet going with the boys back home about how many targets I can hit before lunch." As the human disappeared through the testing chamber doors, Dr. Cax turned to Ragnar, scales pale with concern. "Should we inform the medical team to begin prepping the regeneration tanks?" Ragnar watched the security feeds as Jack began doing warm-up stretches, completely unfazed by the arsenal of deadly weapons surrounding him. "Better prep the entire medical wing. Something tells me we're about to learn exactly why humans have such an impressive survival rate in combat. Lieutenant Pixtar made a final note in her report. Day 1 of human trials. Subject appears to lack basic self-preservation instincts. Creators help us all. The testing chamber's automated systems hummed to life as Dr. Rachnar's voice crackled through the speakers. Lieutenant Cooper, we must insist on following standard safety protocols. The XR-750 plasma rifle is not like your primitive projectile weapons. Primitive? Jack picked up the sleek weapon from its containment field, whistling appreciatively. Doc, you should see what our railguns can do. Now those are scary. This thing's pretty, though. Love the blue glowy bits. From the control room, Dr. Cax frantically adjusted monitoring equipment. Sir, please do not handle the weapon until we've completed the safety briefing. The power core alone could... Oh hey, found the trigger. Jack's voice carried a childlike excitement that sent shivers down all 6 segments of Cax's spine. The human casually shouldered the rifle, checking its weight distribution. Nice balance, bit light compared to standard issue, but I can work with this. Lieutenant Pixtar's voice cut in sharp with concern. The weapon weighs 47.3 kilograms. How are you holding it with one hand? Really? Feels like maybe 15 pounds tops. You guys need to hit the gym more often. Jack started doing one-armed curls with the prototype weapon that had required 2 Kraxan warriors to transport. So what's the deal with these targeting systems? Seems pretty straightforward. Dr. Rachnar pressed his upper hands against the observation window, lower ones frantically typing notes. Lieutenant, please. The briefing includes crucial information about plasma containment, heat dissipation and emergency procedures in case of catastrophic core failure. Core failure? Jack checked the weapon's sights, completely unfazed. That's just fancy talk for boom, right? Don't worry, Doc. If it starts making weird noises, I'll chuck it at something that needs exploding. The entire research team fell silent, mandibles hanging open in horror. Dr. Cax slithered to the emergency protocol station, already preparing evacuation procedures. The combat drones will be activated in sequence, Rachnar continued, trying to maintain some semblance of scientific procedure. Each wave will increase in difficulty to test the weapon's effectiveness against moving targets. The plasma bursts are calibrated to... Sweet, robot fighting time, Jack interrupted, already moving into a combat stance. Hey, quick question. These bots gonna shoot back? Because that would make things way more interesting. Lieutenant Pixtar's scales shifted to a pale green. The drones are equipped with low-powered training lasers for targeting practice only. We couldn't possibly... Oh man, just lasers? The disappointment in Jack's voice was palpable. Those barely leave a mark. What's the point of testing a superweapon if we're not going to make it realistic? Dr. Cax's tongue flicked rapidly as he processed this statement. Leave a mark? Our training lasers are rated at 2.7 kilowatts. They can burn through standard combat armor. Yeah, that's what I mean, just a warm tingle, you know. Jack rolled his shoulders, the composite armor plates shifting with practiced ease. One time during basic, I took a full-power shot right to the chest. Nurse said it should have stopped my heart, but honestly, I've had worse sunburns. In the control room, a junior researcher quietly fainted. Dr. Rachnar made a mental note to requisition stronger stimulants for his team. The first wave of drones will deploy in 30 seconds, Rachnar announced, trying to regain control of the situation. Please remember that the XR-750's plasma containment field requires 3 seconds to stabilize between shots. Firing too rapidly could result in... Results, that's what we're here for, right? Jack chambered the weapon with a satisfying hum of energy. Don't worry, your toy gun's in good hands. I promise to only break the absolute necessary amount of stuff. As the testing chamber's combat systems initialized, Dr. Cax turned to Rachnar with genuine concern. Is it too late to request a different test subject? Perhaps something less enthusiastic? A hungry Nexarian battle beast, maybe? Rachnar watched as Jack began humming what appeared to be ancient human combat music, something about eyes of tigers, while dancing from foot to foot, like an excited child. I fear, colleague, that we're about to discover exactly why humans have a galaxy-wide reputation for turning perfectly good scientific endeavors into chaos. Through the speakers, Jack's voice rang out clear and eager. Hey, if I hit all the targets in record time, can I keep the gun? I've got this buddy in demolitions who would absolutely lose his mind over this beauty. The entire research team responded in unified horror. No! The first wave of combat drones emerged from hidden panels in the chamber walls, their polished chrome surfaces reflecting the facility's harsh lighting. Jack's grin widened as he counted 12 targets, all equipped with those supposedly dangerous training lasers. All right, let's see what this baby can do. He squeezed the trigger, and the XR-750 responded with a thunderous pulse of superheated plasma. Dr. Ragnar's jaw dropped as the human somehow compensated for the weapon's notorious recoil, a force that had sent their strongest test dummy flying backward at 30 meters per second. Impossible! The kickback alone should have dislocated his shoulder. Woo, now that's what I call firepower, Jack whooped, already moving to engage the next target. Hey, Doc, the blue stuff's supposed to splash like that, right? Splash? Dr. Cax nearly choked on his own tongue. The plasma containment field is compromised. You must cease fire immediately and... Jack rolled behind a testing chamber barrier, 3 laser blasts striking where he'd stood moments before. Little busy here, making science happen and all that. The human moved with practiced efficiency, each shot finding its mark despite the weapon's unstable field harmonics. Combat drones fell in rapid succession, their armor melting into silvery pools on the chamber floor. The research team watched in stunned silence as their supposedly unpredictable prototype performed like a precision instrument in the human's hands. Then it happened. A stray laser blast caught Jack's left arm, burning straight through his armor. "Lieutenant Cooper!" Ragnar screamed into the comm. "Medical team to the testing chamber. We have a severe plasma burn and—" "Ow! Rude!" Jack called out, more annoyed than injured. He glanced at the smoking hole in his armor, where angry red flesh was clearly visible. "Guess these training lasers have a bit more kick than I thought. Good to know." Lieutenant Peakstar's scales turned nearly white. He's still fighting? With a 3rd-degree burn? "Fourth wave deploying," Jack announced cheerfully, as if declaring dinner was ready. The XR-750's whine grew higher as he pushed it past recommended power levels. "Hey, what happens if I hold down the trigger? Does it do the thing?" "The thing?" the entire research team shouted in unison. A continuous stream of plasma erupted from the rifle, turning 3 drones into modern art. The weapon's containment field fluctuated wildly, sending droplets of stellar-hot plasma splashing across the chamber. Several caught Jack's exposed arm. "Ouch, spicy!" He laughed, actually laughed, as molecules thick layers of his skin instantly vaporized. "Remind me not to do that in enclosed spaces. Or actually, wait, definitely remind me to do that in enclosed spaces. This would be perfect for clearing rooms." Dr. Cax's monitoring equipment was going haywire. His endorphin levels are having fun during critical tissue damage? Another laser blast caught Jack's leg, and simultaneously a plasma splash landed on his chest plate. The human responded by increasing his rate of fire. "Finally, a proper workout. These robots are getting smarter." "That's because you've triggered the emergency combat protocols." Ragnar was practically pulling his head frills out. "The system thinks you're an invasive threat." "Oh, you guys, you shouldn't have—" Jack dove through a plasma burst of his own making, rolled, and came up firing. "Best test ever!" The next few minutes were a blur of plasma fire, melting metal, and increasingly creative human combat maneuvers. Jack used the weapon's recoil to propel himself across the chamber, turned its containment field failures into improvised area denial weapons, and at one point threw a partially melted drone into 3 of its companions while shouting, "Strike!" When the final drone fell, Jack stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by cooling pools of metal and plasma burns. His armor was a patchwork of holes and scorch marks. At least 3 distinct burns were visible on his exposed skin, and he was beaming like a child on their birthday. "So," he called up to the observation window, casually resting the still smoking rifle on his shoulder. "When do we start the actual test? This was just the warm-up, right?" Dr. Ragnar turned to his team, all of whom were furiously documenting every impossible thing they'd just witnessed. "Lieutenant Pexter, please inform High Command that we may need to recalibrate our understanding of human combat capabilities again." "Already done, sir," she replied, not looking up from her datapad. "I've also requisitioned additional drones and a stronger observation window." Jack's voice crackled through the speakers again. "Hey, anyone else hungry? Fighting robots really works up an appetite. Also, unrelated, but is this rash from the plasma burns supposed to spell out words? Because I swear it's writing something in cursive." The medical team, waiting anxiously by the chamber door, collectively decided to update their definition of urgent care when it came to human patients. Clearly, their standard triage protocols needed work. The medical bay of Facility 7 had never been so thoroughly unprepared for success. Dr. Trill, the facility's chief medical officer, stared at her readings, then at the human sitting casually on the examination table, then back at her readings. "Lieutenant Cooper," she began, all four hands clutching different medical instruments, "according to these scans, you should be in excruciating pain." "Oh, is that what that tingly feeling is?" Jack poked at one of his plasma burns with obvious curiosity. "Neat. Hey, look at this one. It's kind of shaped like a butterfly." Dr. Ragnar, who had insisted on observing the medical examination, made a sound like a deflating balloon. "Lieutenant, that burn penetrated 3 layers of dermal tissue. The butterfly shape is your muscle fiber arrangement being exposed to open air." "Really? That's metal as hell." Jack pulled out his personal datapad. "Mind if I take a picture? The guys back at base are never going to believe this." Dr. Trill's professional composure cracked slightly. "You want to document your potentially life-threatening injuries? For entertainment purposes? Well, yeah, gotta keep the squad updated on the cool stuff." Jack angled his pad for better lighting. "Besides, it'll make a great story at the bar. Check it out. If I flex just right, the butterfly flaps its wings." Several junior medical staff hurried from the room, their faces turning interesting shades of green. Dr. Trill administered herself a mild sedative before continuing. "Your cellular regeneration rate is unprecedented," she noted, watching in real time as Jack's body casually repaired damage that should have required months of intensive care. "The plasma burns are already showing signs of healing." "Oh yeah, we do that," Jack replied absently, still trying to get the perfect angle for his photo. "Had a drill sergeant who said humans are basically walking stem cells with anxiety. Or was it attitude? Something with an A." Dr. Ragnar approached cautiously, scientific curiosity overtaking his horror. "Lieutenant, may I ask how you managed to compensate for the XR-750's recoil? The force should have shattered your skeletal structure." "You just gotta lean into it, you know," Jack demonstrated with an imaginary rifle, nearly knocking over a tray of medical equipment. "It's like dancing, but with more explosions. Speaking of which, when can we go another round? I've got some ideas for maximizing that plasma splash effect." "Another, you want to continue the trials?" Dr. Trill's medical scanner clattered to the floor. "With multiple untreated plasma burns? Untreated, but you guys put that blue goo on them. That's treatment, right?" Jack flexed his arm, watching the burned skin stretch and heal in real time. "Besides, these are way better than that time I fell into a vat of experimental rocket fuel. Did you know human skin can become temporarily fireproof if you scare it enough? Wild stuff." Dr. Ragnar made a note to classify all information about human medical resilience as a potential military secret. "The blue goo, as you call it, is a highly advanced regenerative compound that costs more per drop than most planetary defense systems." Tastes kind of like blueberries. Jack licked his finger experimentally. "You ate that's not, how are you still alive?" Dr. Trill collapsed into her hover chair, all four arms hanging limply at her sides. "Practice." Jack hopped off the examination table, his burns already fading to an angry pink. "So about that second round, I was thinking we could try dual wielding. You know, for science. The medical bay's AI chose that moment to announce warning. Patient's biological readings indicate extreme tissue damage, severe plasma exposure, and increasing combat readiness. Error. Recalibrating baseline human survival parameters. See, even your computer agrees I'm good to go. Jack started doing jumping jacks, apparently to prove his fitness. Though maybe we should grab lunch first. Getting atomically reconstructed really builds up an appetite. Dr. Ragnar watched as the most expensive medical monitoring equipment in the quadrant attempted to make sense of human biology and began displaying poetry instead of vital signs. "Lieutenant Pixtar," he called into his comm unit, "please update the facility's medical protocols. Add a new classification, human, just don't ask." "Already done, sir," came the reply. "Also, the cafeteria staff would like to know if Lieutenant Cooper has any dietary restrictions. Specifically, they want to know if humans can safely consume food that's currently on fire." "Only on Tuesdays," Jack called out cheerfully, now doing one-armed push-ups despite Dr. Trill's increasingly desperate attempts to make him lie down. "Hey, is anyone else seeing little purple spots? Because either that plasma did something weird to my vision or your medical bay has some really groovy bacteria." Dr. Trill administered herself another sedative. "I'm requesting a transfer to the Deadly Virus Research Division. It has to be less stressful than this." 3 days after the initial trial, the Galactic Military Research Facility's conference room had been transformed into what Dr. Ragnar could only describe as a shrine to human unpredictability. Holographic displays covered every surface, showing footage of Lieutenant Cooper's performance from multiple angles, while a team of xenobiologists huddled in one corner, still arguing about whether humans could be classified as carbon-based life forms anymore. "The official report is problematic," Commander Vex announced, his ceremonial armor still bearing scorch marks from that morning's demonstration. "How do we explain to High Command that their most expensive weapons project was outperformed by human, what did Lieutenant Cooper call it?" "Winging it, sir," Lieutenant Pixtar supplied, checking her notes, though he also used terms like freestyle, going with the flow, and my personal favorite, making it up as we go because that's what humans do best. The massive display screen showed Jack's latest test run, where he had somehow managed to juggle 3 prototype plasma rifles while dodging automated defense turrets. The weapons development team had gone through 7 redesigns trying to make the rifles human-proof, only to watch Jack turn each safety feature into what he cheerfully called bonus features. "Did we ever figure out how he survived the containment field rupture?" Dr. Cax asked, still studying the footage frame by frame. "By all accounts, the temperature reached stellar core levels." According to his medical follow-up, Dr. Trill consulted her datapad with a slightly trembling hand. "Lieutenant Cooper said he just walked it off. When pressed for details, he compared it to getting a bad sunburn at something called a beach party." Commander Vex's antennae twitched violently. "And the neural feedback surge that should have overloaded his central nervous system?" He sneezed. Dr. Trill's voice was completely flat. "Apparently plasma radiation tickles human nasal passages. He's requested we weaponize this effect for, and I quote, the ultimate practical joke." The room fell silent as new footage began playing. Jack's infamous efficiency test, where he had strapped 2 plasma rifles together, dubbed it the party starter, and proceeded to clear an entire combat course in record time, while humming something called disco music. "The Weapons Manufacturing Division has submitted their resignation," Lieutenant Peakstar reported. "Collectively, they left a note saying they're pursuing careers in something safer, like volatile antimatter containment." Dr. Ragnar stood, his scientific robes now decorated with unofficial patches reading, "I survived human testing," a gift from Jack's Marine unit. "Fellow researchers, we must face facts. The XR-750 project has revealed something far more significant than advanced weapons capabilities. We have discovered that humans are absolutely insane," suggested Dr. Cax. "Walking violations of physics, offered Dr. Trill. The greatest military asset in galactic history, Commander Vex finished, mandibles set in a grim line. High Command is already discussing a joint weapons development program with the Human Marine Corps. A collective shudder ran through the room. Someone whimpered. Speaking of our test subject, Lieutenant Pixtar checked her notifications. Lieutenant Cooper is requesting permission to attempt something he calls extreme plasma surfing. He's drawn up preliminary plans involving 3 XR-750S, a hover platform, and what he describes as sick aerial moves. Before anyone could respond, the facility's AI announced, "Alert! Human test subject detected in restricted weapons vault. Security protocols. Experiencing existential crisis. Request guidance." The conference room's main screen switched to security footage showing Jack, still sporting faintly glowing burn marks, enthusiastically explaining something to a group of wide-eyed alien recruits. Behind him, an array of experimental weapons hummed ominously. "And that's when I realized," Jack's voice came through clearly, "if you cross the plasma streams just right, you can make the coolest light show ever. Watch this." No, Dr. Rachnar slammed all 4 hands on the emergency shutdown button. "Lieutenant Cooper, those prototypes are highly unstable." "That's what makes it fun." Jack's cheerful reply was followed by a series of increasingly concerning energy signatures. "Hey, anyone want to see what happens when you combine plasma with that weird quantum stuff from Lab 7, for science, obviously?" Commander Vex turned to his staff, ancient warrior composure finally cracking. "Contact Earth's military command. Tell them we need more human marines for our testing program, and requisition whatever they use to keep their training facilities intact, and maybe some of that liquid courage they call coffee. I have a feeling we're going to need it." In the weapons vault, Jack's voice continued. "Oh, cool, these ones come in different colors. Anyone up for making plasma fireworks? Don't worry about the warning labels. Those are more like guidelines anyway." Dr. Trill quietly updated the facility's medical handbook, adding a new chapter titled Human Medical Mysteries. Stop trying to make sense of it. The first page simply read, "They don't die. They don't follow biological laws. Just give them a band-aid and hope they don't get creative." 1 month later, the Galactic Defense Force published new combat guidelines. The document was surprisingly short, consisting mainly of 2 points. Under no circumstances should enemy forces be allowed to capture human marines. Under absolutely no circumstances should enemy forces be allowed to capture human marines who are bored and have access to experimental weapons. A classified addendum written in shaking script added, "If Lieutenant Jack Cooper specifically is involved, evacuate the star system. It's not worth the risk." The weapons development program was officially redesigned as the Human Adaptation and Testing Initiative, with a new motto suggested by Jack himself. "If it doesn't explode, you're not trying hard enough." Dr. Rachnar kept his position as lead researcher, though his official title was changed to Human Activity Survival Specialist. His office, now reinforced with battleship-grade armor plating, displayed a framed photo of the testing team. In it, Jack stood grinning in the middle of a plasma-scorched chamber, both arms around thoroughly traumatized alien scientists, holding up what appeared to be a makeshift trophy made from melted drone parts. The inscription read, "To the best alien science team in the galaxy, thanks for letting me break physics. Same time next week, Lieutenant Jack Cooper, human test subject, professional chaos generator." Below the photo, a small plaque summarized the entire human testing initiative in terms even civilian scientists could understand. Humanity's greatest weapons are not their technology, their strength, or their adaptability. It's their complete inability to recognize when something should be impossible. And in the testing chamber, now reinforced with enough shielding to contain a small supernova, Lieutenant Jack Cooper's latest project notes lay open on a workbench. The top page, slightly singed and covered in enthusiastic doodles, bore a simple title, Operation Awesome, Making Science More Explosive, A Human's Guide to Improving Alien Weapons. The facility's AI had given up trying to calculate the probability of survival for future experiments. Instead, it had developed a new protocol for human testing days. Power up all systems, activate all safety measures and play something called rock music through the facility's speakers. As the AI had noted in its logs, if human chaos is inevitable, we might as well provide appropriate background ambience. Commander Vex's final report to High Command ended with a note that would soon become famous throughout galactic military circles. In conclusion, we have not successfully weaponized plasma technology. The humans have simply befriended it. May the creators have mercy on anyone who stands in their way. Also, requisition request, more fire extinguishers. The humans have ideas about improving those too. And somewhere in the facility, Jack Cooper was already planning his next scientific breakthrough, humming cheerfully as he sketched out designs for something he called the Real Party Starter 2.0, now with extra physics violations. The galaxy would never be the same, but then again, that's exactly what humans do best.